Transformation is not about changing everything overnight. It's about focusing on the few things we can truly control, because real power comes from clarity and consistency. Most of us chase the wrong things: success, money, recognition. Yet we forget that the foundation of transformation starts with how we choose to lead our own lives. And that begins with control, not over others, but over ourselves. There are 5 areas, if mastered, that can completely change the trajectory of your life instantly. These are not theories, these are disciplines. And once you commit to them, everything else begins to align. The first thing to control is your mindset. Your mind is the filter through which you experience everything. If you train it to focus on scarcity, fear, and negativity, then even the greatest opportunities will look like threats. But if you discipline your mind to see possibility, to reframe failure as feedback, then challenges become stepping stones. Mindset is not about ignoring reality. It is about choosing the lens through which you face it. When you master this, life stops happening to you and starts happening for you. The second thing to control is your emotions. We all feel anger, fear, sadness, or even jealousy. But the difference between growth and destruction lies in how we respond to them. Emotions are signals, not commands. When you learn to pause before reacting, when you take control of the story your emotions are trying to tell, you create power. People who control their emotions don't suppress them. They channel them. They use fear to prepare, anger to fuel change, and love to build bridges. That's transformation. The third thing to control is your habits. You don't decide your future. You decide your habits, and your habits decide your future. Every small choice compounds. Waking up 30 minutes earlier, reading for 10 minutes, saying no to distractions, these may seem insignificant in the moment, but they shape the identity you live with daily. If you want instant transformation, stop waiting for a big event and instead redesign your daily rituals. Because in the end, habits are stronger than motivation. The fourth thing to control is your focus. Where attention goes, energy flows. Too many people live in distraction mode, giving their best energy to notifications, gossip, and endless scrolling. Focus is the discipline of saying no to what doesn't serve your purpose. When you protect your focus, you create clarity. And with clarity comes momentum. Imagine how different your life would look if your focus was directed every day toward what actually matters: your goals, your growth, your relationships. That shift alone is life-changing. The fifth thing to control is your circle. The people you surround yourself with influence your thoughts, your habits, even your belief in what's possible. If you're surrounded by negativity, you will slowly become negative. If you're surrounded by visionaries, you will begin to think bigger. Control who has access to your energy. Choose people who challenge you, support you, and push you toward growth. You can't transform your life while living in an environment that keeps pulling you backward. Control these 5 things: your mindset, your emotions, your habits, your focus, and your circle. And you'll notice transformation not years from now, not months from now, but instantly. Because transformation isn't about changing the outside first. It's about mastering what's within. And when you control what's within, the outside world has no choice but to follow. 5 keynotes of the speech: control your mindset to reframe challenges as opportunities. Control your emotions by responding instead of reacting. Control your habits because they shape your future more than motivation does. Control your focus to direct energy only toward what matters most. Control your circle since your environment directly influences your growth. Controlling your mindset is perhaps the single most powerful shift you can make if you want to transform your life instantly. Everything you experience in the world passes through the filter of your thoughts. The same event can either feel like a disaster or an opportunity, depending on the lens you choose to see it through. This means transformation does not begin with changing circumstances, wealth, or even people. It begins with mastering how you think. Your mindset is not just a perspective. It is the operating system that guides every decision, reaction, and belief about what is possible. If the operating system is outdated, no matter how much you try to upgrade the tools around it, your life will always feel stuck. Most people underestimate the subtle power of mindset because it seems intangible. They assume mindset is about being positive all the time, but it is not. It is about recognizing that you have the ability to decide how you interpret the world around you. Take failure, for example. Some see it as proof that they are not good enough. Others view it as a lesson, a temporary setback that carries information about how to improve. The difference between these 2 individuals is not luck or talent, it is mindset. One will quit because they feel defeated, while the other will grow stronger because they believe every experience has value. The event is the same, but the outcome is entirely different because of the lens through which it is processed. When you choose to control your mindset, you stop being a victim of circumstances. Life does not suddenly become easier. What changes is the way you approach it. Imagine 2 people facing a financial challenge. One immediately thinks, "This is impossible. I'll never recover." Their brain shuts down options and their energy collapses. The other person thinks, "This is tough, but I will find a way through it. I have solved problems before, and I can do it again." That mindset fuels creativity, resilience, and determination. One person spirals downward while the other moves forward, and the only difference lies in their thinking. This is the real reason why people with fewer resources sometimes outshine those with more. They choose a mindset of possibility. Your mindset also controls the stories you tell yourself, and those stories shape your identity. If you keep repeating that you are unlucky, unworthy, or not talented enough, your actions will eventually align with those beliefs. You will subconsciously sabotage opportunities because you do not see yourself as someone capable of achieving more. But if you tell yourself, I can learn, I can adapt, I can improve, you begin to act differently. You take risks, you persist through challenges, and you grow into the person who can achieve the goals you once thought were out of reach. The words you whisper to yourself daily are not harmless. They are instructions to your brain, commands that shape your reality. Controlling your mindset means controlling those inner instructions so that they build you up rather than break you down. Another important aspect of mindset is how it affects the people around you. When you walk into a room with a mindset of negativity and complaint, you drain others. People may avoid you and opportunities may shrink because no one wants to attach themselves to that energy. On the other hand, when you carry a mindset of growth, resilience, and possibility, you inspire others. People gravitate toward you because your energy uplifts them. Leaders are not always the smartest in the room. They are often the ones who choose to see solutions when others see problems. This is the magnetic effect of a strong mindset. It multiplies its impact far beyond your own life. Controlling your mindset also requires awareness of the inputs you allow. Your thoughts are often a reflection of what you consume, what you read, what you watch, who you listen to. If your daily inputs are filled with negativity, comparison, or fear, your mindset will naturally lean in that direction. But if you fill your mind with learning, with empowering stories, with people who challenge and inspire you, then your mindset will expand toward growth. You cannot expect to think like a champion while feeding your brain a diet of distractions and toxic noise. Controlling your mindset means curating your mental environment with the same care you give to your physical one. The most liberating truth about mindset is that it can be changed instantly. Unlike external circumstances, which may take time, money, or luck to shift, the way you think can be redirected in a single moment. You can choose right now to view a problem differently. You can decide right now to stop repeating the old stories of limitation and start telling yourself new ones. It does not require anyone else's permission. It does not depend on the past. It begins the moment you take ownership of your perspective. This is why people who control their mindset seem to create opportunities out of thin air, because they are not waiting for the world to change before they do. When you discipline your mind to look for growth in every challenge, strength in every failure, and possibility in every situation, transformation happens immediately. Life may not become easier, but you become stronger. Circumstances may not change instantly, but your ability to handle them does. And once that shift happens within, the external results will inevitably follow. Controlling your mindset is not about escaping reality. It is about empowering yourself to shape it. Controlling your emotions is one of the most critical skills you can develop if you truly want to transform your life. Emotions are powerful forces. They influence how we think, how we act, and how we interact with others. Yet most people live as if emotions control them rather than the other way around. They get angry and lash out. They feel fear and retreat. They become jealous and sabotage relationships, all without realizing that they are giving their emotions permission to drive their decisions. But emotions are not commands, they are signals. They are indicators that something is happening inside you, and the real power comes from learning to interpret those signals without letting them dictate your actions. When you master this control, you stop being reactive and start being intentional. Think of anger as an example. Anger is not inherently bad. It can be destructive if unleashed carelessly, but it can also be fuel when directed wisely. Anger signals that you feel something is unjust or misaligned with your values. If you let it control you, you may say things you regret or act in ways that damage relationships. But if you pause, breathe, and channel that anger into purposeful energy, you can use it to make changes, to stand up for yourself, or to push forward in situations that require courage. The same energy that destroys can also create, depending on whether you control it or it controls you. Fear works the same way. Many people see fear as a stop sign, a signal that they should turn back. But fear is often just your body's way of telling you that you are stepping into the unknown, into a space where growth is possible. When fear is in control, it convinces you to avoid risks, to stay small, to miss opportunities. But when you control fear, you can use it as a guide. You can ask, what is this fear pointing me toward? What growth is waiting on the other side of it? Controlled fear sharpens your senses, makes you more alert, and pushes you to prepare better. Instead of retreating, you advance with awareness, and in doing so, you grow stronger. Jealousy is another emotion people often misinterpret. Left unchecked, it breeds resentment, bitterness, and conflict. But when you control it, jealousy can serve as a mirror, showing you what you desire or what you value in others. Instead of letting jealousy make you tear someone down, you can let it inspire you to rise higher. You might see someone succeed and think, I want that too. What steps can I take to build it for myself? By shifting the lens, jealousy stops being a poison and becomes motivation. It all depends on whether you let the emotion lead you or whether you take the lead yourself. The skill of controlling emotions comes down to space, the space between feeling and reaction. Most people blur that line. They feel something and react immediately as if the two are inseparable. But if you can insert just a moment of pause between what you feel and what you do, you gain control. That pause gives you the chance to reflect, What is this emotion telling me? What is the most effective way to respond? That small gap can be the difference between damaging a relationship and strengthening it, between making a mistake and seizing an opportunity. The pause is where transformation lives. It is also important to remember that controlling emotions does not mean suppressing them. Suppression only builds pressure. When you bury emotions, they eventually find their way out, often in unhealthy ways. True control is about acknowledgement. It is saying, I feel angry, I feel afraid, I feel hurt without judgment, and then choosing what to do with that awareness. Suppression denies, control directs. When you learn to direct emotions instead of denying them, they become tools instead of traps. Your emotions are deeply tied to how you relate to others. People who cannot control their emotions often damage trust. They are unpredictable, and unpredictability creates distance. On the other hand, people who are steady and emotionally aware become anchors for others. When you control your emotions, you project calm even in the midst of chaos, and others naturally turn to you for guidance. Leadership is not about eliminating emotions. It is about mastering them so that your presence gives others stability rather than confusion. Every great relationship, whether personal or professional, depends on emotional control. Think about disagreements. Two people may feel strongly about their perspective, but the one who controls their emotions will listen, communicate respectfully, and create understanding, while the one who loses control will escalate the conflict. Over time, emotional control builds trust, respect, and influence, while lack of control erodes them. Relationships thrive when emotions are expressed with clarity, not chaos. Controlling emotions also creates resilience. Life is full of unexpected events, loss, disappointment, rejection. If you allow emotions to sweep you away, these moments will crush you. But if you train yourself to feel them fully and still choose your response, you develop strength. You learn that pain can coexist with hope, that fear can coexist with courage, and that sadness can coexist with gratitude. This ability to hold conflicting emotions without being destroyed by them is what allows people to bounce back faster and stronger than others. The most empowering truth is that emotional control is not a gift given to a select few. It is a skill anyone can develop. It begins with awareness, with noticing what you feel without rushing to act on it. It grows with practice, with deliberately choosing responses that align with your values rather than your impulses. And it transforms your life instantly, because the moment you realize you are in charge of how you respond, the world no longer dictates your state of being. You become steady in storms, calm in chaos, and intentional in every choice. That control creates freedom, and that freedom changes everything. Controlling your habits is one of the most practical and life-changing disciplines you can adopt, because habits quietly shape who you are becoming every single day. We often think that success is the result of one massive breakthrough, a sudden stroke of luck. But in reality, success is built on the small, consistent actions you repeat over time. Your habits, not your occasional efforts, determine your trajectory. The things you do every day, almost unconsciously, are the true architects of your future. If you want to transform your life instantly, you must take control of your habits, because they are either pulling you closer to the life you want or pushing you further away from it. Habits are powerful because they operate below the level of conscious decision. Once something becomes a habit, your brain conserves energy by running it on autopilot. This means you no longer have to decide whether or not to do it. It simply becomes who you are. This is both the gift and the danger of habits. If you have healthy habits, they create progress effortlessly. If you have destructive ones, they quietly erode your potential. Imagine the difference between someone who automatically reaches for a book before bed versus someone who scrolls aimlessly on their phone until they fall asleep. One person is feeding their mind and setting themselves up for growth, while the other is draining their energy and stealing from tomorrow. Both of them are following habits, and both are shaping their lives, whether they realize it or not. The reason habits are more powerful than motivation is because motivation is temporary while habits are permanent. Motivation can get you started, but it is unreliable. There will be days you do not feel motivated to exercise, to work, or to push yourself. But if you have built a habit around these actions, you will do them anyway. That is the beauty of habits. They carry you through the days when willpower is weak. People who achieve consistent results are not necessarily more motivated. They are simply more disciplined in building habits that carry them forward regardless of how they feel in the moment. Every habit you hold is like a vote for the type of person you are becoming. If you exercise regularly, you are casting votes for being someone who values health and discipline. If you consistently procrastinate, you are casting votes for being someone who avoids responsibility. These small votes compound over time until they create your identity. That is why it is so important to take control of your habits instead of letting them form accidentally. Each day you are building evidence for the kind of person you are. The question is, are your habits building the identity you want, or are they keeping you stuck in cycles you no longer desire? One of the most transformative things about habits is their ability to create momentum. A single positive habit often leads to another, creating a chain reaction. Waking up early may lead to exercising, which may lead to eating better, which may lead to having more energy, which may lead to being more productive at work. A small adjustment in one area of life can ripple into every other area. On the other hand, negative habits compound in the same way. Hitting snooze may lead to skipping exercise, which may lead to rushing through the day, which may lead to stress and poor decision making. That is why the quality of your life is often a reflection of the chain reaction of your habits. Taking control of your habits requires honesty. You must be willing to observe your daily routines without excuses and ask yourself which of these habits are serving me and which are silently sabotaging me. Often, it is not the big decisions that derail us, but the small, repeated choices. Eating junk food once may not matter, but eating it daily builds a pattern of poor health. Skipping one day of study may not matter, but avoiding it consistently creates ignorance. Transformation comes when you take ownership of these small choices and align them with the person you want to be. Habits are also powerful because they shape your environment. The things you surround yourself with often trigger the behaviors you repeat. If your phone is the first thing you see in the morning, checking notifications becomes a habit. If a book is placed on your nightstand, reading before bed becomes a habit. Controlling your habits often starts with controlling your environment so that it nudges you toward the behaviors you want to adopt. Small adjustments in your surroundings can make it easier to build habits that support your growth and harder to fall into the ones that limit you. It is important to remember that habits are not just about discipline, they are about identity. When you say, I'm trying to exercise, it feels like a temporary effort. But when you say, I am someone who takes care of my body, the habit becomes part of your identity and your actions align naturally with that belief. Real control over habits happens when they shift from being something you do into being a reflection of who you are. Once a habit becomes tied to your identity, it is no longer a struggle. It becomes natural. The moment you decide to take control of your habits is the moment you take control of your future. Each choice, each repetition, each small act of consistency builds momentum toward transformation. Habits are the quiet builders of destiny, the invisible threads weaving the story of your life. If you want to change your life instantly, begin by changing what you do daily. Because when you control your habits, you control the story of who you are becoming, and that story will determine everything else. Controlling your focus is one of the greatest skills you can develop if you want to take charge of your life and create transformation that lasts. Focus is the invisible force that determines where your energy goes, and where your energy goes ultimately shapes the results you achieve. Most people believe they lack time, but the truth is they lack focus. Everyone has the same 24 hours, but not everyone uses those hours in the same way. The difference between someone who feels stuck and someone who feels unstoppable often comes down to how they direct their attention. When you take control of your focus, you stop scattering your energy on distractions and begin channeling it toward the things that matter most. That single shift creates immediate change. The challenge today is that we live in a world designed to steal our focus. Notifications, endless scrolling, constant noise, and the pressure of comparison all compete for attention. Every time you allow yourself to be pulled into these distractions, you are trading your potential for momentary entertainment. It may feel small in the moment, but over time, those stolen moments add up to hours, days, even years of lost progress. Focus requires discipline because it is no longer the default setting of our environment. It must be deliberately chosen. Controlling your focus means learning to say no to the constant pull of distraction so you can say yes to the life you are trying to build. Focus is powerful because it magnifies effort. Think of sunlight. When scattered, it warms, but when concentrated through a magnifying glass, it can ignite a flame. The same energy directed with precision produces vastly different results in your life. Focus acts the same way. If you are half committed to multiple things, you create little impact in any of them. But if you pour your full attention into what matters most, you create results that feel almost effortless. Mastery does not come from doing everything. It comes from focusing on the few things that matter and doing them consistently well. Another important aspect of focus is clarity. You cannot control your focus if you do not know what you are focusing on. Many people struggle not because they lack the ability, but because they lack direction. They confuse business with productivity, filling their days with activity that leads nowhere. When you are clear about your priorities, focus becomes easier because you know what deserves your attention and what does not. Without clarity, you allow other people's agendas, emergencies, and distractions to hijack your energy. Controlling your focus begins with deciding what is truly important to you. And once that is defined, everything else becomes background noise. Focus also has the power to influence your emotional state. When you dwell on problems, obstacles, or fears, your energy drops and you begin to feel stuck. But when you shift your focus to solutions, possibilities, and lessons, you activate creativity and resilience. The problems may still exist, but your focus determines how you experience them. For example, if you lose an opportunity and focus only on the disappointment, you feel defeated. But if you focus on what you learned from the experience and how you can prepare better for the next opportunity, you feel empowered. The same event can produce entirely different emotions depending on where your focus lies. Focus also builds momentum. At first, concentrating on one task may feel small or insignificant, but as you sustain that focus, progress compounds. A writer who commits to focusing on one page a day may not notice much change in a week, but in a year, they have a book. An athlete who focuses on training consistently may not see results in a few days, but over months, the transformation becomes undeniable. This is the magic of focus. What seems small in the short term becomes extraordinary in the long term. Distraction scatters progress, but focus compounds it. Controlling focus also requires you to be intentional with your environment. Your surroundings either support your focus or sabotage it. If your workspace is filled with interruptions, your ability to concentrate diminishes. If your environment is designed for deep work with minimal distractions, focus becomes natural. The same principle applies to the people you surround yourself with. If you are constantly around those who thrive on negativity, gossip, or distraction, your focus will be pulled in that direction. If you are surrounded by people who are driven, disciplined, and clear on their goals, your focus sharpens in alignment. Taking control of your focus often starts with taking control of what and who you allow into your space. Another overlooked truth about focus is that it is deeply tied to presence. Many people live in the past, reliving mistakes and regrets, or in the future, worrying about what has not yet happened. But focus is most powerful when it is grounded in the present moment. The ability to give your full attention to the task at hand, to the person you are with, or to the opportunity right in front of you creates not only effectiveness, but also fulfillment. Life feels richer when you are focused on the now instead of scattering your energy across timelines you cannot change or control. The instant transformation that comes with controlling your focus is that it allows you to reclaim your time and your energy. When you no longer allow distractions to dictate your day, you begin to feel in control again. When your attention is directed toward what aligns with your goals and values, every small action feels meaningful. Progress accelerates not because you are doing more, but because you are finally doing what matters most. Focus is the discipline of protecting your energy, directing it with intention, and refusing to waste it on things that do not serve your vision. When you master this discipline, you discover that transformation is not about having more hours in the day. It is about making the hours you already have truly count. Controlling your circle is one of the most underrated yet life-altering decisions you can make because the people you surround yourself with quietly shape your thoughts, your beliefs, and your behaviors. Whether you realize it or not, your environment is constantly influencing you. Human beings are wired for connection, and that connection means we absorb the energy, the language, and the attitudes of the people closest to us. If your circle is filled with negativity, doubt, and complacency, it will eventually drag you into the same mindset. But if your circle is filled with people who challenge you, inspire you, and push you to grow, you will find yourself rising to a higher standard almost effortlessly. Controlling your circle means taking responsibility for who has access to your mind and your energy, because not everyone deserves that access. Your circle influences you not only through words, but through example. People normalize behaviors for each other. If you spend most of your time with those who constantly complain, you will begin to see complaint as a natural response to challenges. If you spend your time with those who blame others, you will start to think in terms of excuses rather than solutions. On the other hand, if your circle is made up of people who take ownership of their lives, who focus on possibilities, and who consistently put in effort, that standard becomes normal for you too. Without even realizing it, you begin to adapt to the level of the people around you. This is why controlling your circle is so critical. Your potential is either being expanded or restricted by the people you allow to influence you. Another powerful truth is that your circle reflects your standards. If you keep company with people who are content with mediocrity, it becomes easier to justify staying in the same place. But when you are surrounded by people who are constantly striving for growth, it becomes difficult to stay stagnant because their ambition challenges yours. Their progress becomes a mirror, showing you what is possible for yourself. This is why many people experience breakthroughs not just by changing what they do, but by changing who they spend time with. Proximity to excellence pulls you upward, while proximity to complacency anchors you down. Controlling your circle also means learning to set boundaries. Not every relationship is meant to have the same level of access to you. There are people who may care about you, but who consistently drain your energy with negativity or fear. There are people who may be entertaining, but who encourage destructive habits or distractions. You cannot allow loyalty or comfort to be the reason you stay in circles that sabotage your growth. Boundaries are not about rejection. They are about protection. Protecting your energy, your focus, and your vision is essential if you want to transform your life. Sometimes the most difficult but necessary step is to limit access to those who consistently pull you away from your goals. At the same time, controlling your circle is not only about removing the wrong influences, it is also about deliberately seeking out the right ones. You need people who stretch your vision, who challenge your excuses, who celebrate your wins, but also hold you accountable when you fall short. These are the people who remind you of your potential when you forget it yourself. The right circle is not just supportive, they are demanding in the best way. They demand that you rise to the level they know you are capable of reaching. When you place yourself in environments where growth is the norm, transformation becomes inevitable. Your circle also shapes the conversations you have, and conversations shape your thoughts. If the majority of your discussions revolve around gossip, negativity, or complaints, your mind becomes saturated with the same low-level thinking. But if your conversations revolve around ideas, goals, strategies, and growth, your mind stays focused on higher possibilities. Words are seeds, and the conversations you have daily plant the seeds of either growth or decline. Controlling your circle ensures that the seeds being planted in your mind are the kind that build the future you want. It is important to recognize that you will outgrow some circles, and that is a natural part of growth. The version of you who is striving for transformation cannot always remain in the same spaces as the version of you who is content with less. Outgrowing circles does not mean you think you are better than others. It simply means you are aligning yourself with environments that reflect where you are going instead of where you have been. Growth requires change, and that includes the people you surround yourself with. The most powerful aspect of controlling your circle is that it creates acceleration. Alone, you can push yourself, but with the right circle, you are lifted by collective energy. You feed off each other's drive, you share resources and ideas, and you remind each other of the bigger picture. The right circle multiplies your strength, while the wrong circle divides it. One inspires belief, while the other breeds doubt. Choosing wisely creates a compounding effect where progress feels natural because your environment constantly reinforces it. At the end of the day, transformation is not just about what you do alone, but also about who you allow to influence you. The people closest to you are either building you or breaking you, expanding your vision or shrinking it, feeding your growth or draining it. Controlling your circle means making the deliberate choice to place yourself in spaces that reflect the life you want to create. Because when your environment supports your vision, your actions follow with greater ease, and your life begins to transform at a pace you could never achieve by willpower alone. Transformation is not a mystery, and it is not reserved for a chosen few. It is the result of taking control of the things that are already within your reach. You cannot dictate the economy, the weather, or the actions of other people, but you can decide what kind of mindset you carry, how you respond to your emotions, the habits you repeat daily, the focus you protect, and the circle you surround yourself with. These 5 choices are not external. They live inside you, and the moment you choose to control them, change begins instantly. Life will always present challenges, setbacks, and uncertainties, but when you are in control of these 5 areas, you are no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You become steady in storms, disciplined in routines, intentional with your attention, and elevated by the people around you. These are not small adjustments, they're the foundation of transformation. The instant you take ownership of them, you reclaim your power, and that power reshapes the direction of your life. The truth is simple: control these 5 things, and you do not just change your days, you change your destiny.